Okay, so my name is Tiffany. I am an Elixir string artist. Thank you for this segment. I just wanted to, sample some of my music and also, of course, talk about Elixir strings and some of my other gear. Elixir I've been using forever. I've been using them since I was a teenager, literally. I love Elixir strings. When I first started playing bass, I tried a couple of other brands, and then once I tried Elixir, which one of my bass techs put me on to, I was sold. So as you can see, I have Elixir strings. They have a lot of benefits to them. The feel is amazing, and also they cater to no matter what your playing style is. So whether you have a funky style or you play more like a pluck style or both, it pretty much will cater to any style, and it does good for your bass. Some strings are kind of rough on different instruments, so different types of instruments. Also, I use these hydration packs inside of my bass case. They're by 𝓉𝒾𝒻𝒻𝓈𝒷𝒶𝓈𝓈. They do a lot for your strings as well as your actual instrument, because as you know, all of us that play guitar, most of us have wooden instruments. So you want to make sure that inside of the case, and no matter where you're going, traveling and stuff, while you're going through different temperatures, that your wood stays as consistent as possible. If not, it can cost you a lot of money. So you want to make sure that you use these. It doesn't have to be this particular brand, but I use these 𝓉𝒾𝒻𝒻𝓈𝒷𝒶𝓈𝓈, like I said. I think this is really it. So can you guys hear the music as well? I'm kind of playing a little bit of my most recent single. It's called Paradise. You want to hear a little bit of it? I'm going to turn this down just for a second. Hi Adrian, how long have I been playing? Like 20 years-ish. For a long time. I started off on piano and then I switched over to bass guitar. So I switched over when I was in high school, and that's when, and I still kind of had like a piano player's approach to bass, so that's what I let come out in my artist shows more so than as a bass player, because as a bass player you're supposed to hold down the foundation. Obviously you can do little things in between, but not too many piano lines. So also I use grbassamps. Up. grbassamps, they're out of Italy. They have a really nice punchy clean sound, so I use them as well. Some of my other gear I use is also mono cases. I don't know if you can see. Those are my case. That's my case. Mono, they pretty much last forever. So mono, they pretty much last forever. I have old mono cases that are at least 10 years old or more, and they don't even have a rip in them. My favorite bass players, 𝓌𝓌𝓌𝓌, Matthew Garrison, John Petitucci, who else? Yeah, those are my, Richard Bona, and some of the guys that play, like of course in Snarky Puppy and different things. I mostly like jazz bass players, and of course other bass players like gospel bass players, classical bass players, but I would say 𝓌𝓌𝓌𝓌, Matthew Garrison, those are my top, and John Petitucci, those are my top favorite bass players. Yes, mono is great. They never fail. I love mono. And also, of course, I have elrickbasses. So I've been with elrickbasses for a while. They have an amazing tone. I've used it for all of my music. So yeah, they also, and I'm gonna have another bass made by him as well. I have a 6-string, but it's not Elrick, so I have to get a 6-string made by them. Would you all like? So that's Paradise. Even though it's distorted, I'm sorry. I wish it wasn't distorted. But I will also play some of my first single, which is Viscosity. I did that on my last show. So let's go by. Any other questions? Bring on the questions, please. As far as actually touring, obviously we're all on lockdown now, so nobody's touring. But yeah, mostly like I'll leave and come back in within that year. So questions, bring them in. So I'm working on my EP. This is Viscosity. Like I said, I just put out Paradise, and I'm gonna have an Marcus Miller, definitely Jocko. How can I forget Jocko? Okay. I guess that's Victor Wooten as well. So yeah, I love all of those bass players. I tend to take from different bass players and just kind of, you know, get inspired from different people's styles, especially Jocko. I also like to study sax solos, because sax solos will increase your vocabulary, obviously, and it just gives you a different approach and a different, you know, way to exercise different lines. Also, you can definitely hear more of my music in my upcoming shows on my website. That's TiffsBass.com. Make sure you put the S after Tiff. TiffsBass.com, and all my social media channels, TiffsBass, at TiffsBass. So on Instagram, I'm at TiffsBass. On Facebook, obviously, I'm at TiffsBass. Twitter, at TiffsBass. So on all the social media platforms, not quite TikTok yet. So what else would you guys like to hear or talk about? But yes, definitely gospel bass players as well. And a lot of times you find gospel bass players playing different types of music. So I grew up playing in church, and then I branched out outside of church and started playing in different venues and for different artists and things like that. So I would never trade that experience for anything. I think that was one of the best things that could have happened to me, to grow up playing in church, because as any gospel bass player knows, you have to have a certain skill set to play gospel. And then once you can play gospel, you can pretty much play anything, in my opinion. And I'm sure it's the same way for some other genres. So I like different genres. I like salsa, classical, definitely classical, R&B, jazz, fusion, funk, a little bit of funk. So I like a different mixture of different, you know, different genres and styles. So that's pretty much what you're gonna hear in my EP. You're gonna hear definitely different styles. It's not gonna sound the same. So thank you. So what else? Like I said, Elixir, have any of you tried Elixir Strings? Any musicians that's on the line right now? Have any of you tried Elixir? Because you need to. I use light medium for mine. I've tried light and I popped a string. That was a long time ago. I never went back to that. What inspiration was behind Paradise? I would say, what inspiration was behind Paradise? It was definitely the opposite inspiration that was behind Viscosity. I had more of a fusion vibe that day that I wrote Paradise. And like I said, my goal is usually to tell a story. So Paradise, the name pretty much speaks to, you know, what the story is supposed to be about, a peaceful vibe, pretty much. So more questions. Oh, you play, okay, Adrienne, so you only play Elixirs. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I try to get all my friends, and I've even touched, even though I play bass, I have picked up Elixir Strings for lead guitar, and it was the same silky smooth feel, and it allows you to do a lot more. Like I said, I've tried other brands like when I first started playing, and you know, I never got the same experience that I get out of Elixir Strings. So let's see. Soon. I'm also gonna log off in a few minutes to give the next one a chance to get her specs right before she logs on. So any other questions before we jump offline? What would you say is the most challenging industry? Oh wow, that's a great question, Marlon. So Marlon says, what would you say is most challenging in the industry for a woman of color to rise to the top? There's definitely a few challenges. But in my opinion, there's also a way to counteract those challenges. You know, there's not a lot of women of color that play in the industry in comparison to the amount of people in the industry. There's a lot of women of color, but not in comparison to the entire industry. And some of the challenges are stereotypes, honestly. You know, a lot of people, I can't tell you how many times people say, you're a bass player, like, you don't look like a bass player. What does a bass player look like? I don't know. Also, you know, there's other, you know, challenges where, you know, people, you might walk into a situation where you are scheduled to play and people just really give you a different, they either give you a lot of energy, like, wow, you know, she's a woman of color that plays, or, you know, you might get energy like, Yeah, right. Like, let's see what happens. So you just have to, like I said, there's ways to counteract that. Be on top of your game. To answer that question as well, one big challenge I realized was when I did the Broadway production this past fall and winter in New York. It was for colored girls, and that play called for only women of color musicians. And when I got the call, I was excited, but I was surprised because that was in New York. I'm in DC. I'm based out of DC. So when I'm home, I'm in DC, and I'm like, how did they find me down here? So what ended up happening was, you know, there was a couple times when I needed a sub for that play. You know, there were certain dates that I just could not do. I already had other obligations. And finding another woman of color in the area to fill in, that was like one of the biggest struggles. So that's definitely another, you know, challenge. But as far as rising to the top as a woman of color, it's all in you. It really is. Like you will always face, you know, even if you're not a woman of color, you will always face, you know, different challenges. But main thing is be disciplined, be about your, you know, be on top of your work, be on top of your game, just do what you're going to do. And then also, you know, you don't want to rely on the fact that you're a woman musician and that you are a woman of color. You are a musician first. So I'm a bass player first, then I'm a, you know, a female, then I'm a woman of color. So I don't expect people to give me any breaks or any passes or anything like that just because I'm a woman of color. And that's one of the first ways to rise to the top, because you're not trying to get any special passes. And also stay on top of my website. I also have a newsletter that goes out every month or every other month that tells everyone where my next show is and all those details. So like I said, TiffsBass.com, and then I tend to post some things on social media as well. So all of that is at TiffsBass. Don't forget the S, because there's another TiffsBass out there. How do you go about playing with different drummers? I usually end up on different gigs with different drummers, and then if I enjoyed the experience and we locked pretty well, I usually keep their information. Even if we didn't, you never know if, you know, that drummer will pair well with somebody else. So I always network. When I'm on a different show or whatever, I tend to keep, if I can, if we all can exchange information, I keep, you know, exchanging information with all the drummers, all the keyboard players, saxophone players, whoever is on the gig. So that's how I go about playing with different drummers. Thanks for that question, H3 rather. More questions, and then I'm gonna log on off so we can go on to the next one. Thank you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You didn't have to, so I really, really appreciate your time. For 20 to 30, thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Elixir Strings. Thank you, Tara. I enjoyed you all. Please stay connected with me online. I love it. Oh, H3, I've been playing for a little over 20 years. Like I said, I started when I was a teenager in high school. I started on piano, and I was just telling them, I started on piano and then I switched over to bass. So I've been playing for a while, but I have a while to go. I have a long ways to go. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, and I will talk to you all later.